Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Digital Nomad World weekly series. I'm your host, Becky, and today I'm with my guest, Steve Appleton, and we're going to be talking about moving to Thailand and becoming location independent. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hi.
And where are you coming from us today, Steve?
I'm in Chiang Mai, Thailand, northern Thailand.
Nice. I just came from there. Actually, Steve and I have a funny story. We had been together at a dinner at the Digital Nomad Summit in Playa del Carmen, Mexico in 2019. And this is what happens when you start traveling. Steve saw me in a cafe and introduced himself again. And yeah, we were both staying in a complex right next door to each other. So Steve, thanks again for saying hi to me that morning. Here we are
Yeah,
now.
yeah, sure.
All right. So, Steve, can you first tell us about your background and how you started your location independent lifestyle?
Yeah, I was a professional planner. I did a lot of work consulting in the real estate industry for like 25 years. That was my career. But in my early 50s, I felt like I needed to take more control of my personal finances. I wanted to travel more. I wanted to change things in my life, and I didn't want to be tied to a boss who I didn't respect or want to work for. So I started to learn about online entrepreneurship and how to make money online. And uh, that was, 7 years ago. And just recently sold my business that I'd built over the course of those years.
Congratulations. That's such a huge accomplishment. Do you
Thank you.
find, while we're talking about that, did you find, how long did it take you, would you say, to really learn enough to start this online business?
Um, I think the rule of thumb is that it takes you 1,000 days to replace your current professional income. So if you're making 100,000 a year, it could take 3 years to uh, develop the skills and build a business that generates sufficient income to replace what you make in the corporate world. There are other ways that you could calculate that, but it depends. You have to have focus. You have to work every day. There's certain, things that come with the territory, if you're going to be your own boss.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for sharing that length of time as well. Because as you've said, it takes dedication, it takes determination, but it's
Mhm.
possible. You just sold your business. And also
Yeah.
you said when you got into your 50s, you started thinking more about your personal finances and made this change. Do you mind if I ask where you were living at that time?
Yeah. I'm from California, and I was living in Santa Barbara at the time. And yeah, working for a real estate development company, but yeah, it
Yeah,
was
the reason I
beautiful.
Oh, such a beautiful place. But the reason I asked you as well is, we can see this area you were living, and I'm guessing, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that you didn't feel your personal finances were where you wanted to be, or you were thinking about your future. And then we're going to talk now about moving to Thailand, and perhaps it's an option for people. And there may, I'm sure, be many people in your place that were perhaps thinking that they wanted to get location independent, and maybe it's a financial decision as well.
I understand. Well, just to be clear, I had this regular job and I started building the business. And at the time, I uh, got my first sale with my online store in the US. I got laid off. And then at that time in 2017, I said, uh, that's it. I'm all in. I'm going to do this thing. And on January 1st, 2018, we're going to get in the car and drive to Mexico and continue south or whatever and just start the journey. So that's how I started on January 1st. Got rid of everything, gave away a lot of stuff, had a whole house full of, belongings, and and then spent the last 5 years living in Mexico, actually. So I have a residency there. And but then recently I moved to Thailand. So the last 5 years I was living I wouldn't say nomadically, because I settled in, and I did a lot of travel border runs during that same period of time.
Mhm. Okay, so there's many places we can consider when we want to start that location independent lifestyle. Like you said, you can go and it doesn't have to be a nomadic situation. You can just change country, change places, and start to change your life. So when this was happening, can you tell us, now that you've been location independent for a while, can you tell me one tip that you would give to people who are considering starting this kind of lifestyle?
Yeah, I think that you can get a remote job, work for someone else. I think it's better to start your own business, be your own boss. But if you add travel to that, the nomadic part, you have the digital part, which is how you make money online, and you have the nomadic part, which is traveling around the world and having these awesome experiences. That if you start the travel and you haven't figured out what you're going to do for digitally, you can get lost in the travel. It takes a lot of mental bandwidth to travel as nomadically after a few weeks or months or years. I mean, people do it, but it can get tiring, and you may want to settle down. And it's better, I think, if you can figure out the digital first. Start a website, start a business of some kind, get a small income flow from that before you set off to your journey. That would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I do remember meeting a few people at that Nomad summit that we both were at in Mexico, and there were people who had just quit their jobs and had come to the summit. And I
Yeah.
was shocked. I said, "What are you doing for money?" "Oh, I'm living off of my savings, but I'm sure something will work out, you know."
You can do that for a while. You can live off savings and stitch it together. But I think figuring out what you want to do and work on every day, um, is an important thing. And don't let the travel component, you know, uh, blur that, because you do need to figure out how you're going to occupy your time and make money. For most people, it's about making money.
Yeah, getting through the day to day and continuing to be able to live that location independent lifestyle.
Yes.
Well, through all of these border runs and being in Mexico and now being in Thailand, I imagine there's been some funny experiences that may have happened. Can you please share with us one funny story from your experience since becoming location independent?
Um, you know, I think dealing with time zones can be a challenge. Like the US time zone is 12 hours offset from Thailand. And when you're booking hotels and stuff and using Google Calendar, you have to know which calendar you're using and which day you're booking. And I can tell you, I've booked days, at least once, this was for Bangkok, that I didn't need because I was in transit for 2 days. I lost a day and I didn't need to book the hotel, right? I was able to work it out, but and then the opposite happens where you forget to book. You check out one night and you get into another one, but you forgot they have to overlap, right? So I'll make these glitches, but I think after a while, that kind of stuff and figuring out phones, SIM cards, eSIMs, there's a lot of mechanics of regular travel, visas, and it takes time to really master it.
Yeah, and every country is so different. I love being in Europe and traveling there because I can go on the same SIM card for a while. But yeah, being in Asia, I'm definitely have been having some issues switching. Do you use eSIMs more and more these days, or would you recommend an eSIM over a
I
SIM?
haven't used an eSIM. I wanted to preserve a number, so just got a physical SIM. It's the easiest thing in Thailand. I mean, they have phone booths set up, I mean, service areas that right in the airport. Get your SIM card, pick your plan. They have excellent 4 and 5G in the country, and Wi-Fi is good too. So that's rarely a problem. The mall down the street has a phone store. I can I pay my bill. They have the app. We can do all sorts of things. So yeah, no problem there.
Okay. I personally have only
Much
used.
easier than a few years ago. Like, I mean, compared to Mexico or even just 5 years ago, where getting phone service was more of a challenge.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was recently introduced to eSIMs. I've still only used one, but I find this app I'm trying to use called Airlo. Often the eSIM will say it's sold out, and I don't know really how that's possible. So I'm still really reliant on SIM cards when I travel.
Understood.
So let's talk about Thailand. Now that we're talking about some SIM cards there, when did you first visit Thailand, and why have you decided to move there from Mexico and the US where you were before?
Yeah. So about 8 years ago, I took a 3 week trip here, Thailand, Cambodia, and it was great. It was fast, and I didn't know the area, so I was just discovering places and spent. I heard about Chiang Mai. It had such a reputation as a beautiful place, elephant encounters and so forth, and so I did love Thailand, and then when I started my business, of course, I knew that it was the center for digital nomads and so forth. And so I wanted to go back. And I did actually last year. I went to Bangkok for a business conference and spent a few weeks both in Bangkok and Chiang Mai. That was last year, right at the time that I was in escrow on selling my business. And so once it sold, once I returned to Mexico and was free from the US time zone, because I had been doing my own customer service, for the business, I just said, I'm just going to go. I'm just going to move to Thailand for a while. I qualify for the retirement visa, so I'm actually working with an agency to get that now. And I love it. The people are so kind, so friendly. The culture, it's spiritual. The food is awesome. It's inexpensive, so it's great.
How do you rate Mexican food versus Thai food? Because I know a lot of people love both.
Well, Mexican food is quite diverse. There's a lot of different cuisines throughout the country, so it's one of the most diverse types of, their range of cuisines. I don't know if you could say the same about Thai food, and yet here you have a much wider range of options every day, from Thai, Chinese, Indian, uh, uh, and everything in between. So there's healthy foods, sweets, breads, pastries. Just the food abundance here is much greater than even in Mexico, where food is abundant. But you have more diversity of food options and cheaper. Like if you eat, I don't even go to the grocery store because it's cheaper to eat out than to buy groceries and try to prepare stuff, right?
Yeah, that's what I found too, especially if you're a single person or by yourself in your apartment. It's
Hmm.
like, yeah, the numbers don't work out. All right. Well, I know you said you're working with an agent to get your retirement visa for Thailand. Can you
Hmm.
share with us the details of what are required to get that visa and any obstacles that you've faced in this process, if
Well,
any?
they've been very professional and very kind, and they've helped me every step of the way, from going to the bank and opening a bank account. I transferred the 800,000 baht. That was no problem. Um, and getting a form from the residence proving residency, that's never been an issue. And then dealing with the immigration, and they knew all the forms to get me to sign, and were there for my meetings, and that's gone very smoothly. So I should have my visa in a couple of weeks. They got me the extension I needed just for the on arrival visa, so everything's been very smooth and professional.
It's great to hear. How long, what's the time frame been like since when you got the agent and started the process to, as you said, you're about to receive the visa?
I hired them before I moved here, got it started and paid them, and when I got here, I met with them, and so I don't know, 6 weeks.
Wow, that's really short. As some people who watch the show know, I am a resident of Portugal, and I can tell you it took much longer for the whole process to get
Yeah,
that card in my hand.
of
Yeah.
course. Yeah, same with Mexico.
Do you mind sharing how you found this agent and roughly the costs of hiring them if somebody's thinking about just handing it over to the agent?
Oh my goodness. I emailed a couple of different agencies. I Googled, visa agency Thailand, and of course there's a million hits. And so I found two. I asked a group that I'm in, the people familiar with Chiang Mai, if they had any recommendations. And uh, one, I didn't like the responses in the email. Second one, I really did. It was very informative and they were friendly. And so um I forget the exact amount. It wasn't cheap,
Yeah.
600 or 700 bucks. I can't remember, but it's just what it costs, right?
Right. And they're doing so much for you, saving you so much legwork yourself. I don't, is it
Yeah,
possible to go through this whole thing yourself without hiring an agent? I don't know if
yeah,
you're
I'm sure people do it. It's just that I don't trust myself, to get the right papers and know how to. They're not translated, it's just they handle everything, the whole process, procedures, and they have inside connections so that they know how to get to the front of line quickly. And I haven't had any. There was one long wait, just sitting for an hour, at immigration, but so what, not bad.
yeah, what's the name of your agent that you're going through? I don't know if it's a company name or
HH Premium. They're
okay.
right downtown in Chiang Mai. It's like their office is so close to everything, and they're very very good agency. Highly recommended.
Okay. Yeah. And just to give you a comparison from my experience in Portugal, I was quoted to get a lawyer and go through all the immigration process, it would be about 2,100 euros. And I
Hmm.
said, that's too much for me. I think I can do this myself. And I did, but there was so much paperwork step by step that I almost wish I had hired them. But I think $600 to $700 is great.
Yeah,
It's to save all that time because you never know, like you said, what form you might miss.
yeah.
So I wanted to ask you next about accommodation actually in Thailand. So what has the accommodation search been like? Because I'm sure with this visa, you're trying to find a longer term accommodation in Chiang Mai. How's that process been?
It's been okay. I uh on short legs of trips, like when I first came here, spent 4 days in Bangkok, stayed in a luxury hotel, Marriott, because I have a lot of points that I saved points in their system, reward points that I earned from signing up for their cards and using their cards to buy stuff like as part of my business. And so I earned a lot of points and can pay for a lot of hotel rooms with those points. And the travel here as well. The business class flight was paid with points, a $9,000 flight, which I wouldn't have paid for in cash, but the points covered it quite well. So on the short segments like that, a couple of days in a place, I'll stay in a hotel. And then, but I had done some research and I've made prior arrangements with a monthly service department right in the middle of Chiang Mai, PT residences. I was in the mirror. So I booked them for a month beforehand. And when I arrived, and I paid them a small deposit. And when I arrived, I paid them the rest and had a nice apartment for a month. It was one bedroom, right in the middle of Niman, which is the sort of the hip part of, or one of the hip parts of Chiang Mai. But it was pricey at 14,500 baht, which is what, 400 and something dollars. And so I knew I could do better. And I was in Facebook groups for like um, service departments, monthly rentals, 10,000 and less. But then and I looked at a number of these, but you really have to be careful where you look, which neighborhoods, where do you want to be? It's a big city, and it could take several hours to walk across the city. So, picking where you want to live is important if you want luxury or you want to save money. So I'm in a second place here. It's 13.5, but that's because it's still like a hotel quality service. I don't want to, I'm living out of two suitcases and a backpack right now. That's everything I own in the world. I got down to that much when I left Mexico. And um, I don't want to start buying stuff like pillows and sheets and towels just to carry from place to place. I mean, once I settle in, maybe, but I would rather be in a place that has those things and that cleans them and changes them on a weekly basis. And there are places like that. So I'm going to be moving into one in the middle of the month nearby, just on the outskirts of Niman, but it's great. Weekly service. They clean the apartment and change the sheets and towels. It's a nice little neighborhood close to um, but not in the hot spot area.
I agree with you. I love service departments. Just takes that, that extra time out of your week that you'd have to clean and wash the towels and everything. I think that's great. Um, and this reminds me, so how long are you planning to stay in Chiang Mai at the moment? What are your current plans?
Indefinitely, I guess, because I like to have a home base and then plan trips from there. I'm not really nomadic in that sense. Um, and I'd been in Mexico 5 years, two different cities over the course of 5 years. And so I moved here thinking that I would make this a home base for a while. Um, and we'll see. It's not too difficult to change my mind, or well, yes, it's difficult to change my mind. It's not difficult to move once you make up your mind, but deciding where to live, it's a great country, and there are a lot of beautiful places. I love Bangkok. I could see myself living in Bangkok for a few months or a year. So first I'll get the visa. I need to stay here to do that, and then once I get that in my hand, I'll have more mobility.
That's great. How long does the retirement visa last once you get it?
It's an annual renewal with quarterly reporting.
Okay. What kind of things do you have to report every quarter?
You have to uh, provide proof of your bank balance, I think, and maybe where you're staying. I'm not sure. It's pretty basic. It may even be able to be done online, and they'll, tell me when I have to do it. You do have to maintain the bank balance. That's the main requirement. And right now, I can't leave the country while the visa is pending. I need to stay here so that but once it's been issued, I can come in and out.
Okay. So every year it's renewed. Do you know if you're going to have to go into a physical meeting to get that renewed or?
I think not. I'm not, as I recall, I don't think you have to. I'm not sure what's involved, but it's perfunctory in nature.
Okay. And what's the minimum age requirement to apply for the retirement visa in
You
Thailand?
have to be at least 50 years old.
Okay.
I
And
never
I
got
heard, I'm not going to ask you your age in this show, don't worry. Um, but I did want to also ask you, I've heard there's different tiers of these visas in Thailand. I'm not sure if that's the same for the
Yeah,
retirement visa, but there's like some
they do have.
really fancy one where they pick you up in a car from the airport. Is this true?
There is the Thai Elite Visa, which is a relatively new program, and it's based on proof of having money in the bank and having a source of income that's pretty high level. And you have to pay a high level to get the visa, but it's available to people with high income. And I have a buddy who uh, got it, and but he makes this his home and travels freely in and out. Yeah, it's luxury all the way.
It's nice that they have an option like that if people want to go for it.
Yeah, of
Also,
course.
with the retirement visa, my last question about that is there a minimum stay, an annual required number of days you have to stay in the country?
That I'm not sure. There may be some number, but I don't recall. I don't think it would be onerous, but there may be some amount of days that you need to be here. I'm not sure.
Okay. In the situation in Portugal, there is also this kind of elite visa called a golden visa, but I think one of the benefits of paying more is you're required to stay in Portugal less time,
Hmm.
between 7 and 14 days. So it's really interesting when you think of moving to a country, to really keep those requirements in mind. Also in Portugal, I can tell you from personal experience, they don't check you on your bank account balance really for 5 years. So I had to show it when I applied at the beginning, but I'm hearing that there's no check on it until perhaps you're applying for permanent residency, which is at least 5 years later. So
Okay.
all these things to take into consideration. And this leads me to my next question, Steve. Did you consider beyond Mexico any other places to try to get a retirement visa before choosing Thailand, such as Portugal or some of these other popular programs? I think Dubai has become quite popular.
No, I didn't. I love Thailand, and having come here again in last year, and being having come here 8 years ago, I sort of knew that this would be the place to spend more time. Yeah, I've spent a lot of time in Spain, not Portugal. Uh, but you know, no, not really. I didn't consider any other programs.
When you said Spain, it made me think of their tax situation. Do you know anything yet? I know it's really early in the process for you. Do you know anything about what the tax situation is going to be like for you in Thailand as a resident there?
I don't have a Thai source of income or any source of income for that matter because I sold my business, and so well, yeah, I have other sources of income, but the primary one, changed last year, and so but I don't think I would have to pay any Thai taxes at all. I don't think that's an issue. I do have to. Americans are tied to their U.S. wherever they are, regardless of if they. I haven't lived in the U.S. for over 5 years, and yet I'm still, tied to the entire U.S. tax system.
Me too.
Yeah, I'd have
It's,
to, I'd have to give up my U.S. citizenship, which you can do, but that's a big step.
oh yeah. That is a show for another time. But yes, I hope that people who are watching this that are Americans are already aware that they have to always pay file taxes and report their worldwide income. But yeah, it's one of those onerous things about being a U.S. citizen for sure. Especially as we consider moving to other countries and we're like almost never in the US. You're like, why am I still having to pay taxes?
Yeah, indeed.
So I want to ask you about Thailand. What do you love? You've mentioned some of the things you love. What do you love about living in Thailand? And what are some things that annoy you about, let's say, Chiang Mai, where you are now?
Oh, I love Thailand. I love, as I mentioned, the culture. The people are genuinely friendly, um and polite, respectful, peaceful, soft spoken, creative. It's a beautiful place, and the diversity of food. So if you like to eat, and it's inexpensive, I love everything about it, and they getting annoyed. I don't get annoyed. I just go with the flow. And even if something is like, whoa, look at this, it's just observe it without, having a reaction to it like that, especially annoyance. In Thailand, being angry, especially expressing frustration or anger, you can cause people to lose face, which is the worst kind of thing you could do. It's and maintaining social order and peace is very important. And Americans, are have to be careful because they can be quick to anger, and that just doesn't work here at all.
Yeah, it's I think that peacefulness, that calm nature does start to seep into you, and it's a great feeling when you've
Mhm.
seen maybe some fights in the US or people getting angry with each other. Definitely a
Yeah.
different culture. Is there anything that annoys you about Chiang Mai?
you know, I don't get annoyed anymore. I'm too old. I mean, sure,
That's
the
good.
smog annoyed me for the last few days of the burning. But it's today we had fresh air and it's wonderful. So, but yeah, that's a little bit of a bummer because I've mostly lived in places that didn't have that had very good air quality, and so I was annoyed with that. Why isn't every in such an advanced country? Why isn't everyone driving electric cars? So, but it's a developing country and it's developed. It has both, but that would be awesome if they could switch to electric. It would really clean up the air and everyone would thrive from that.
Yeah, it's so I've been to Chiang Mai now 4 times, and I always hear about this burning season. And some people say it starts in January, but I have to say I didn't see many days of bad air quality when I was there early in January. So I'm not sure. Maybe it's February, or I'm not even sure how long it lasts. But it is something to be aware of for people thinking of coming to Chiang Mai at that time of the year. It does get worse, from what I've heard. The farmers are burning their fields, and
Well, it
yeah.
varies by year, but this year it started in late January, and now we're in early February, and it died down a bit. I mean, it's clear but it should last for a couple of months. That's usually what happens. So it is a seasonal thing.
Have you found any groups or meetups in Thailand that you've connected with?
Oh, well, I'm part of a group called the Dynamite Circle, which is a group for online business owners and who are location independent. And there's some of them who are here, and um, and I'm part of a couple of, like expat type Chiang Mai groups on Facebook. I see postings from there. I get, like English expat news. I mean, they're like the English version of the Thai news. They'll translate it or just highlight it and whatever. But no, not too much. I haven't really done any major meetups and that kind of thing.
What I do love about Chiang Mai is if you're looking for something, it's out there for you. There are many meetups and groups for different types of communities, and so I personally love going to
Yeah.
places where there is such an active social engagement going on. So whenever
Mhm.
you decide to look for a group, I'm sure you'll find something.
Yeah, I mean, once you know what you're into, whether it's salsa dancing or whatever, you'll find a group that does it.
And the Dynamite Circle that you mentioned, are they still doing annual conferences in Bangkok?
Yeah, their premier conference, that's the one I went to late last year, is in Bangkok, and then they do another one in April in Mexico City, which I went to last year, and they're doing it again this year. And then they have smaller ones they call like DCX events in London and New York, around the world, where members themselves put on a weekend gathering event where it's supported by the DC but it's organized locally. And then
Interesting.
there's like WhatsApp groups and monthly juntos, group get-togethers. We have a weekly lunch here at the Salad Concept restaurant, and so that's a standing lunch. People just come if they have, if they're free, and just to catch up, and so that's nice.
Yeah, I'm glad you can connect to community and you already had some conferences you'd been to before that led you to have community all
Mhm.
there already. And just like we met at a different conference. So getting involved in these different
Mm,
meetups and things are really beneficial for like making your new life in a new country much more robust. So, well,
yeah.
Steve, I wanted to thank you for joining me today. And is there anything else you'd like to share with us before you go?
Um, well, I guess the mindset is so important. Your mindset is going to affect your work and your travel and your experience. Two people can go to the same place and one's going to say, wow, that was amazing. The other's going to say, oh, I hated that place, right? And what's the difference? They both were at the same place or the same event. The difference is how they process it. And if you can have meditate or do something to take control of your thoughts and understand your thoughts or observe your thoughts, because what you think, I think didn't the Buddha say something like that we are what we think? Our thoughts are define us because it's what we experience. So think well, in life, and that will help you in your, journey and your work.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think all of us need to be as mindful as we can be, especially going through a move to a new country or becoming
Right.
location dependent. It's a lot
Yeah.
going on at one time, and that will really help us. So thank you for that tip.
Yeah, sure.
And thank you for joining us, Steve. Really
Okay.
enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, of course, me too.
And good luck finally getting that visa. Hopefully, it's like one more week.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll get it.
All right. Bye.
Bye bye.